Dear children, today the topic which is going to be dealt with is orbitals and quantum numbers. The quantum mechanical model was put forward taking into consideration the wave-particle duality of electrons. Schrödinger gave his equation, which is H operator psi equal to E psi, where H operator is a mathematical operator called Hamiltonian and psi is a wave function. When you solve the Schrödinger wave equation, we get the value of psi. Okay, psi can have different values, and these values lead us to four quantum numbers, namely principal quantum number, azimuthal quantum number, magnetic quantum number, and electron spin quantum number. Okay, these four quantum numbers give us the exact address of each and every electron in an atom. Okay, so quantum numbers are a set of four numbers with the help of which we can get complete information about the electron in an atom. Okay, so I have told you earlier in our previous class, from the value of psi, we can understand or we can get complete information about the electron in an atom. How? Psi is not a single value. Okay, it is a set of values which are given by four quantum numbers. From these four quantum numbers, we can get complete information about the location of an electron in an atom at a certain instant. Before we move on to study about orbitals and quantum numbers, let us now imagine what an atom would be like. Imagine the orbits given by Bohr. Look, I have drawn the Bohr's orbits. If the orbits in an atom were concentric circles, then an atom would have been flat. But an atom, we all know, cannot be flat. Okay? An atom is the basic constituent of matter. You, me, and all of us, we are all part of matter. How are we? We are three-dimensional. We occupy space. So an atom, being the basic constituent of matter, should also be represented three-dimensionally. Okay, so now we can imagine these orbits three-dimensionally. Let's try to imagine these orbits three-dimensionally. Let's not call them orbits, but let's call them shells. When you use the word shell, let's imagine an eggshell. Okay, an eggshell has the entire egg inside it, right? So imagine an eggshell as an atomic shell or an energy level now. An atomic shell or an energy level should have electrons which have certain energies trapped inside it. But this shell, okay, is not a physical shell. You do not have eggs inside an atom. Therefore, this shell is only imaginary, and imagine 90% chances of finding electrons within this imaginary shell. Okay, now look at the picture of eggshells which are stacked one after the other. Okay, now look at the green eggshell. Imagine this as the first shell or first energy level. Inside this green eggshell or the first energy level, imagine that you have electrons of certain energies trapped inside it. Okay. Now, as the energy increases, imagine one shell over the other shell and the next shell and so on. So you have shells increasing in size as the energy increases, and each shell has electrons in it. Okay. Now, as the energy increases, what happens? The size of the shell increases and the energy of each shell increases. That is what is represented from these stacking eggshells. Okay. Now, but the electrons inside each shell do not have the same energy. Okay. The electrons which are inside each shell. Suppose, just imagine the electrons which are present in the green eggshell. The electrons which are present in each cell do not have the same energy. these shells themselves have divisions. That is, they also have subshells inside them. Okay, so these shells can be the first shell, second shell, third shell, and so on. Each of these shells further have divisions which are called subshells, and each subshell further is divided into orbitals. Okay, we will learn about it as the class proceeds. Okay, you can also imagine hollow spheres stacked over one another. Now, look at the adjacent pictures. Imagine the blue hollow sphere as the first energy level or first shell. Imagine that there are electrons of certain energies inside this energy level or the first shell of an atom. Okay, all the electrons are not of the same energy. Okay, they differ. The energies of electrons inside this shell is not the same. Okay, this first shell has subdivisions inside it, or in other words, the first shell has one subshell inside it. Now look at the second sphere. Imagine this as the second shell. Okay, this second shell has two subshells. It is further divided into two other shells inside it. It has two subshells inside it. Okay, this is what is shown in the adjacent picture, 2s, 2p. These are the subshells present inside this red hollow sphere or the second shell. Now coming to the third shell, that is the green hollow sphere, it has three subshells inside it. 3s, 3p and 3d subshells inside it. Okay, so these have electrons. There are electrons in each of these shells, and these electrons are not of the same energies. Okay, and each subshell is further divided into orbitals. We'll learn about it as the class proceeds. Imagine an apartment building. Okay, this is just to make the concept clearer to you. Okay, now imagine an apartment building where the different floors are the different energy levels or shells of an atom. Okay, the subshells are the apartments in each floor. Second picture. Okay, imagine a floor. Okay, there are different apartments in a floor. Okay, so just compare subshells with the apartments in each floor. Okay, the subshells are the apartments in each floor, and each apartment has its own rooms. Okay, this is shown in the last picture, third picture. I've written orbital inside the picture. Okay, now if you consider an apartment in a floor as a subshell, okay, and if you consider the different rooms of an apartment as orbitals, you will get the picture of the location of an electron in an atom. Okay, so each floor is a shell or an energy level, each apartment is a subshell, and each room in each apartment is an orbital. I hope that makes it clear. Okay, and the speciality of the rooms in these apartments is that each room will be occupied only by two people. That means each orbital in a subshell is occupied only by two electrons. It has a maximum capacity of two electrons. An orbital cannot have more than two electrons. Okay, so shells have subshells. The subshells are further divided into orbitals, and each orbital is occupied only by two electrons, not more than that. So this is what the quantum numbers do. So therefore, in the structure of an atom, there are shells represented by the number 1, 2, 3 and so on. Okay, shells can also be called as energy levels. You should not call them as orbits. You should call them as shells or energy levels. Each shell has subshells, as I told you. Okay, look at the first shell. Okay, shell number 1, it has only one subshell. Look at the next shell, the green shell, it has two subshells inside it. Now look at the third shell, which is represented in blue color. It has three subshells inside it. Okay, each subshell is further divided into orbitals. Okay, remember the rooms of the apartment. Okay, and the speciality of these orbitals is that it is occupied only by 2 electrons and not more than that. So, quantum numbers give us information about the shell in which the electron is present. Okay, this is done by the principal quantum number. Okay, it gives you an idea about the shell where you can find the electron. And the azimuthal quantum number tells you about the subshell in which the electron may be present. Okay, and the magnetic quantum number tells you about the orbital in which it is present. And the fourth quantum number, called the electron spin quantum number, helps you to differentiate the 2 electrons present in an orbital from the direction of their spin. Hence, quantum numbers help us in finding the address of an electron. They help in finding the exact location of an electron in an atom. Okay, now let's study about each and every principal quantum number in detail. Okay, first one is the principal quantum number. It is represented by the letter n. Okay, it is a positive integer with value of n ranging from 1, 2, 3 and so on. Now look at the picture. Okay, the first shell is indicated by the value of n is equal to 1. Second shell is indicated by n is equal to 2. Third shell is indicated by n is equal to 3 and so on. So it indicates the shell or the energy level. Okay, the energy levels corresponding to these numbers are designated by alphabets. Okay, K, L, M, etc. So, for n is equal to 1, you can call it as a K shell. N is equal to 2 is L shell. N is equal to 3 is M shell and so on. Okay, so principal quantum number gives information about the size of the orbital occupied by the electron present in a given shell. It also tells you about the energy of the orbital occupied by the electron present in a shell. And now look at this picture. Okay, in the top right corner, as the value of n increases, okay, as the value of n increases, the size of the orbital in which the electron is present increases. That is, you can locate an electron at a distance far away when it is present in n is equal to 3 from the nucleus. Okay, so as the value of n increases, the distance of the electron from the nucleus increases. As a result, the size of the orbital in which the electron is present increases. Therefore, the energy level n is equal to 1 has the least energy, n is equal to 2 has more energy than the first, and n is equal to 3 has even more energy, and so on. Now, so energy is required in shifting the negatively charged electron from the attractive force of the positively charged nucleus. So, as a result, the energy of the orbital increases with increase in the value of n. So, principal quantum number gives us information about the energy level or the shell in which the electron is present. It actually tells you about the shell or the energy level where you can find an electron. It also tells you about the size of the orbital in which the electron is present. Okay, and it also tells you about the energy of the orbital occupied by the electron. And you also learned that as the value of n increases, the distance of the electron from the nucleus increases. And as a result, the size of the orbital in which the electron is there also increases. Okay, the energy level n has the least energy and it increases with increase in the number n. Okay, since energy is required in shifting the negatively charged electron from positively charged nucleus, energy of the orbital increases with increase in the value of n. How can we calculate the number of orbitals in a shell? Okay, this is very important from the exam point of view. We can calculate the number of orbitals in a shell by the formula n square. Okay, so let's calculate the number of orbitals in the first shell. first shell has n is equal to 1. So n square is equal to 1 square, which is equal to 1. So the first shell can have only one orbital. See children, we are not talking about calculating the number of subshells inside the shell. We are calculating the number of orbitals in the shell by the formula n square. Okay. Then first shell will have one orbital, and we also learned that each orbital will be occupied by only 2 electrons. Now let's calculate the number of orbitals in the second shell. For second shell n is equal to 2, so n square is equal to 2 square is equal to 4. So the second shell can have 4 orbitals. Okay, this is how we calculate the number of orbitals in a shell. Now, how to calculate the number of electrons in a shell? Okay, how to calculate the total number of electrons in a shell? Since there can be only 2 electrons in an orbital, the number of electrons can be calculated by the formula 2 into n square. Okay, so the number of electrons in a shell can be calculated by the formula 2n square. So this is how you calculate the number of electrons in each shell. Now for the first shell, okay, you know n is equal to 1. So substitute this in 2n square. 2 into 1 square is equal to 2. Okay, so the first shell can have only 2 electrons in total. Now for the second shell, the value of n is 2. Applying this in 2n square, you get 8 electrons. So the second shell can have a total of 8 electrons. The third shell can have a total of 18 electrons. The fourth shell can have a total of 32 electrons, and so on. Now, let's learn about azimuthal quantum number. This is the second quantum number. It is represented by the letter L. It is also known as orbital angular momentum quantum number or subsidiary quantum number. Okay, these are the other names of azimuthal quantum number. Okay, it gives information about the subshells or sub-energy levels present in each shell. It also defines the three-dimensional shape of the orbital. This we will deal with in later classes. Okay, so what is the number of subshells present in each shell? Okay, now we will study the number of subshells. How you will know about the number of subshells present in each shell? Okay. The number of subshells in a principal shell is equal to the value of n. Okay, the number of subshells is always equal to the value of n. Okay, suppose look at the tabular column. If the value of n is 1, that is for the first shell you will have 1 subshell. For the second shell, you have 2 subshells. For the third shell, you would have 3 subshells. For the fourth shell, you would have 4 subshells. Why? Because the number of subshells in a principal shell is equal to the value of n. Okay, this is what is shown in the diagram also. See, for the first shell, there is only 1 subshell. For the second shell, n is equal to 2, there are 2 subshells. For the third shell, n is equal to 3, there are 3 subshells. And for the fourth shell, there are 4 subshells. N is equal to 4, and so on. Now, each subshell is assigned the quantum number L. Okay. The quantum numbers allotted to them are not 1, 2, 3 according to the shell. Okay, what we saw in the earlier tabulation. We shall assign quantum number L for each of the subshell in the following way. First shell has 1 subshell. So the value of L assigned to it is 0. Okay, the first value of L is 0. Therefore, if n equal to 1, L should be 0. Now, second shell has 2 subshells. The value of L assigned to these 2 subshells are 0 and 1. So, if n is equal to 2, L can be 0 and 1. Now, third shell has 3 subshells. The value of L assigned to these 3 subshells are 0, 1 and 2. So, when n is 3, L can be 0, 1 and 2. Now, if you have to put this into the formula, how would you calculate the subshells? For any value of n, L should have values from 0 to n minus 1. Since the first value is 0, the first value of L is 0, hence the last value has to be one number less than the number of the subshell. Okay. Now, it is clear that if n is 1, L should be 0, having only one value. If n is 2, L should also have two values, 0 and 1. If n is 3, L should also have three values, that is 0, 1 and 2. If n is 4, L should have four values, that is 0, 1, 2 and 3. So these are the subshells. Okay, the 0 subshell, the first subshell, the second subshell, and so on. Okay, so these are the numbers assigned. Okay, now each shell has been given a name. Okay, subshells corresponding to different L values are given the following symbols. What are they? If the value of L is 0, it corresponds to the notation S. Okay, it denotes S subshell. If the value of L is 1, then it denotes P subshell. It stands for P subshell. If the value of L is 2, then it stands for D subshell. Okay, if the value of L is 3, it stands for F subshell. If it is 4, it is G subshell. If it is 5, it is H subshell. We still do not know elements which have H subshell in our periodic table. To sum it up, the azimuthal quantum number tells us the number of subshells present in a shell. Look at the tabulation. N stands for principal quantum number, which indicates the shell. L is the azimuthal quantum number. It indicates the subshell. Okay. Now I have written the subshell notation also. Okay, corresponding to each value of L. Now let's see. How can you get this number 1s, 2s, 2p and all? Let's see. Okay. Now n is equal to 1 stands for the first shell. As we know, first shell has only one value of L, that is 0. So the value of L for the single subshell present in n is equal to 1 is 0. Now we know if the value of L is 0, then it is given by S. Okay, it represents S subshell. It indicates S subshell. Since this subshell is present in the first shell, you write it as 1S. Now coming to the value of n is equal to 2. This stands for the second shell. Second shell can have two values of L. What are they? 0 and 1. So the second shell has two subshells with L values 0 and 1. Now 0 stands for S subshell, 1 stands for P subshell. Since these two subshells are present in the second shell, you write it as 2S and 2P. Now coming to n is equal to 3. If n is equal to 3, L can have three values 0, 1 and 2. Okay. Now 0 stands for S subshell, 1 is given by P subshell, 2 it represents D subshell. Since these three subshells are present inside the third shell, you write it as 3S, 3P, 3D. Coming to the value of n is equal to 4, it can have four values 0, 1, 2 and 3. Okay, according to the subshell notation, 0 represents S subshell, 1 represents P subshell, 2 represents D subshell and 3 represents F subshell. Since all these subshells are present inside the fourth shell, you write it as 4S, 4P, 4D and 4F. Okay, so I have shown this in the picture also. Just correlate and understand. Try to understand. So azimuthal quantum number gives information about the subshell in a given principal shell or energy level to which the electron belongs. Okay, it gives information about the subshell. Coming to the third quantum number, magnetic quantum number. It is represented by the letter L. It is also known as magnetic orbital quantum number. Remember, principal quantum number talks about the shells where there is a possibility of locating an electron. The azimuthal quantum number tells us about the subshell where it may be present. Let's see what magnetic quantum number has to inform us. It gives information about the different orientations of the orbitals in space with respect to a standard set of coordinate axes. Look at the picture. Magnetic quantum number tells you about the possible orientations of the orbitals in space with respect to x, y and z axis. And it determines the number of orbitals present in any subshell. Okay, this is very important. Now let me do a comparison. When I was talking about principal quantum number, I told you about a formula, n square. Remember, it tells you about the total number of orbitals present in a shell. Okay, that's the difference. Okay, it tells you about the number of orbitals present in a shell. But magnetic quantum number determines the number of orbitals present in any subshell. Clear? The values of the magnetic quantum number ml depend on the value of L. Now, what is the number of orbitals present in each subshell? Let's see. For any value of L, the total number of possible values of ml is 2L plus 1. Okay, for a given value of L, ml can have all integral values ranging from minus L to plus L, including the zero in between. Let's see how to calculate the total number of orbitals in any subshell using 2L plus 1. If L is equal to 0, okay, for the first shell, L is equal to 0. So ml is equal to, substituting 0 instead of L, 2 into 0 plus 1, which is equal to 1. So ml can have only one value. Okay, 1 tells you, the digit 1 tells you that ml can have only one value, that is 0. Okay, subshell, the s subshell contains one orbital called s orbital. Okay, so s orbital can have only one orientation in space. Look at the picture. This shows the s orbital, orientation of s orbital in space. Now, if the value of L is 1, ml will be 3. ml is equal to 3. That means ml can have 3 values. Okay, I told you. Minus 1, 0, plus 1. These 3 values are minus 1, 0, plus 1. So, it means p subshell contains 3 orbitals. Okay, called p orbitals. P orbital can have 3 orientations in space along the x, y and z axis. They can be designated as px, py and pz. The picture of px, py and pz is shown. Okay, this shows the orientation of p orbital with respect to x, y and z axis. If L is equal to 2, the value of ml will be 5. This means ml can have 5 values ranging from minus 2, minus 1, 0 to plus 1, plus 2. So this means that D subshell, L stands for D subshell, isn't it? L is equal to 2 stands for D subshell. That's why D subshell contains 5 orbitals. You got 5 values for ml. So D subshell contains 5 orbitals called D orbitals. D orbital can have 5 orientations in space along the x, y and z axis. The picture shown tells you about the different d orbitals, dxy, dyz, dxz, dx square minus y square and dz square. If L is equal to 3, ml can have 7 values, okay, ranging from minus 3 to plus 3, including the 0 in between. So there can be 7 values for ml. Okay, L is equal to 3 means we are talking about the F subshell. Okay, so F subshell contains 7 orbitals called F orbitals, and this is given by the values of ml minus 3, minus 2, minus 1, 0, plus 1, plus 2 and plus 3, 7 values. Okay, so F orbital can have 7 orientations in space along the x, y and z axis. Now look at the tabulation. Okay, in the first row the values of L are given, and the second row the corresponding subshell notation is given, and the last row tells you about the number of orbitals that each subshell can possess. Okay, so if the value of L is 0, okay, 0 stands for S subshell and it can have 1 orbital. This we found out from the value of ml. Now for a value of L, okay, is equal to 1, it means P subshell. Okay, so the number of orbitals in p subshell is 3. When the value of L is equal to 2, it represents d subshell. D subshell can have 5 d orbitals. Now, the value of L is equal to 3 represents F subshell, and F subshell can have 7 F orbitals. L is equal to 4 represents G subshell, and G subshell can have 9 G orbitals. L is equal to F stands for H subshell, and H subshell can have 11 H orbitals, but elements with this subshell is still unknown to us. Okay, you can get a clear understanding of what we discussed by having a mere look at this picture. Okay, remember when we studied about the limitations of Bohr's model, okay, we learned about doublets which are found in the line spectrum of hydrogen. What are doublets? Two closely spaced lines. Okay. Did the three quantum numbers which we discussed recently tell us anything about these doublets? No. Okay, there can be triplets also, three closely spaced lines. Okay, in the line spectrum of elements. Okay, the three quantum numbers just discussed didn't tell us anything about the doublets or triplets which are observed in the line spectrum of elements. Okay, this suggests the presence of a few more energy levels than predicted by the three quantum numbers. So in 1925, it was George Uhlenbeck and Samuel Goudsmit who proposed the presence of this quantum number, fourth quantum number. What is it? Electron spin quantum number. It is represented by the letter ms. It gives us information about the spin orientations of the electrons in an orbital. Remember, magnetic quantum number tells us about the orientations of orbitals. Okay. Now, spin quantum number tells us about the spin orientations of electrons which occupy an orbital. Now, how do an electron spin? Just look at this picture. You can see Earth spinning around its own axis while it revolves around the Sun. In a similar way, okay, an electron also spins. An electron spins around its own axis while it revolves around the nucleus. So, an electron has, besides charge and mass, an intrinsic spin angular momentum. The angular momentum of an electron is a vector quantity, so it can have only two orientations. So ms can have only two possible values, which are plus half and minus half, and these values represent the two spin states of the electron. Okay, an electron can spin only in two ways, either clockwise or anti-clockwise. So this clockwise and anti-clockwise spin of the electrons are represented by an upward arrow which represents spin up position and a downward arrow which means spin down position. Now look at this picture. It would be evident from this. Okay, an orbital is occupied only by two electrons with different ms values. This means an orbital, it is occupied only by two electrons with opposite spins. The values of the ms of one electron would be plus half, and the value of ms of the other electron would be minus half. So this is everything about the four quantum numbers. Okay, so thank you children. Please do learn all these quantum numbers clearly and thoroughly. You might be getting so many problems from this topic, especially from the chapter 2.